Okay, so welcome everyone. I can see a couple of new names. A couple of those names are new recently because of people being ordained. So yeah, congratulations. Really best wishes. Welcome back. And a couple more to come. At the moment, Annie, who's a regular in this class, is off on her ordination retreat. And yeah, so we'll see her again soon. So this morning, which for not all of you is morning, because the other couple of names I can see, I don't know which time zone you're in, but yeah, at least one from the other side of the world. So today, I thought I'd say something about that I learned from the retreat I've just been on. Actually, I've been on retreat with Tejananda last week, and he had a particular sort of process of leading people into retreats, helping prepare the mind before really starting the emptiness practice, the wisdom contemplations. And I found it very helpful. And they were a bit like sort of mini samadhi or samatha practices, so stabilizing and bringing positivity into the mind so that there's a slightly stronger basis of stability there. Yeah, really seeding those qualities. So I thought I'd just say a little bit about that. Because generally I've found that the more of the receptive Vipassana type practice, the more mindfulness as a path to wisdom practice that I do, the more I found myself able to go revisit samatha practices in a way that I couldn't before. I found them very tricky. If I tried to concentrate on one particular object, I'd often get a lot of tension, holding, and the concentration could feel quite narrow, a little bit constricted. So that's where I think some of the benefits of the receptive practice really help if your mind is inclined in that sort of way when you really try to pay attention. And I think this isn't uncommon. And I was hearing a comment that apparently Lama Shempen Hukum had said a while back. She was leading a Brahma Vihara retreat. So a more sort of a samatha set of practices, at least initially, where you direct the mind quite strongly. But this retreat was only open to people who'd done a certain number of years of what she calls formless practice, which is quite similar to what we're doing, the more receptive practice. So I found that interesting. And her reasoning was because with the undirected formless practice, you learn to work with the mind in a different way to samatha directed practice. You learn not to identify with thoughts and feelings that are arising. You learn to see them more as a natural phenomena, as nature, and not as personal. More as impersonal processes. Yeah, so I found this very interesting. It's my own feeling, and it was interesting to hear it coming from another source. So receptive practice can really benefit those times when perhaps you go back to, or you introduce a bit more of practice where you're directing the mind. And it works the other way too. So directing the mind can build a bit more stability, a bit more settledness in the mind, can help resource and steady the mind, that helps you then be with whatever's arising in receptive practice. One of the things that I've heard quite a lot is the tendency for the mind to go off. We talk about it as getting distracted, which is not so I wouldn't use that language really in receptive practice, but I think again, I think Vasantra calls it klesha soup. So you can end up with the mind sort of getting lost or wallowing a bit. And I think there's a case to be said for actually that's okay. That's okay for the mind to get used to feeling a bit lost and to re-find itself. I think there's some learning to be had there. So yeah, we don't need to worry about that. But there is also a benefit to having a bit more stability, perhaps initially in the practice. And we can play around with those different elements, being clear when we're directing the mind and when we're really opening up to the undirected mind, to whatever's arising. But this morning we're going to play around a bit with some of those elements that I was doing meditation under, and they'll be very familiar to you. There's a little bit of metta, perhaps using the breath, perhaps using a slightly more formal body scan. And just seeing what the effect is on the mind, on the practice. So I'll lead into that, and then as usual lead you to just open up yourself, notice what's happening in your own practice. But if you find the mind resisting, if the mind has got used to the receptive element, doesn't want anything to do with the more directed, or that's fine. That's fine. If it doesn't feel helpful, then just relax and open up to more of whatever's happening. You can notice that resistance, notice the mind resisting and what that feels like, and really celebrate that your competency in the receptive practice when you can notice what the mind is doing and how the mind is relating to the practice, how it's relating to experience. It's great that you've noticed. Okay, so if you'd like to set up, just to let you know, I'm going to record the meditation practice this time for our friend in the States who's particularly interested in it, but I noticed they've had quite a few views, so the meditation will be there for you afterwards as well.